Welcome to Small Medium at Large, the podcast where we dive deep into life's biggest questions with a little help from Spirit. Through heartfelt conversations, Spirit-led guidance, and powerful guest interviews, my hope is to inspire you to fill your cup, shine your light, and create a little more heaven on earth. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Small Medium at Large. And so today we're going to be diving into something really close to my heart. And if you follow me, you have heard me talk about our team spirit and how to build a real working relationship with this energetic support system that you put into place before you were born. So think of them like your spiritual support crew. Your guides, angels, ascended masters, your departed loved ones. Sometimes that includes your pets and others who are always in your corner. But here's the thing. It's not about chasing guidance, okay? It's about receiving it. And what happens when we slow down, we get still and we tune in. And so here we go. So what is your spirit team or your team spirit? Just imagine this, okay? It's your first day of kindergarten, okay? And you walk into this big unfamiliar school holding your parents' hand. And they bring you into the classroom to make sure that you meet your teacher and that, you feel safe, you feel supported, knowing that they're going to leave, but you're in a safe space and you're in good hands for the day. Well, that's exactly what it's like with our incarnation into this earth school. Okay, we have Mother, Father, God, Divine Spirit that brings us here and doesn't just drop us in and peace out. Okay, nope. We are set up with a whole team of loving, enlightened spiritual beings to help guide us through every single part of the journey. And so, this team spirit is made up of archangels like Archangel Michael. Many of you have heard of him, I'm sure, and Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. Guardian angels that all of us have from birth until death. Spirit guides, ascended masters. Some of the more common ones are Jesus, Mother Mary, Buddha, Moses, Green Tara, and there's so many. Saints, departed loved ones, spirit animals, and it goes on. And then part of that team spirit are your incarnated earth angels. Okay. I call those your ground crew. Those are more evolved souls that are here in the human form, and they're here to support you. So all of these beings are like divine agents of source. Okay. And they're prearranged to be a part of our journey. And some are with you your entire life. And others show up during specific chapters, lessons, or milestones. And so there's different levels of the spirit realm. And so now let's look at the levels of the spirit realm. Okay, let's talk about where all these beings exist, energetically speaking. So here we are. We are incarnated, physically focused in a body, right? And so we are in what we call the third dimension or third density. Okay, this is Earth School. And this is where we live, we learn, we navigate duality. Okay, light and dark, love and fear, ego and soul. Okay, this duality, it really serves our soul's evolution because it's a world of polarity and contrast. And most often our soul really learns and integrates through experiencing contrast. And then you have the fourth dimension, and this is what we call the astral plane. Okay, so think of it like the playground between heaven and earth. And this is where I go in readings. Sometimes Spirit has referred to it as the waiting room between heaven and earth, however you want to see it. And then within this fourth dimension, there's the lower astral plane and the upper astral plane. Okay, and so it's where your spirit guides and your deceased loved ones and other helpers often hang out. And the lower part of the astral plane is where when we're making that connection, spirit is lowering its vibration from the higher dimensions into that kind of waiting room or playground. And that's where the medium, or if you're doing it yourself, you raise your vibration and you lock in, you meet in the middle in that lower astral plane. The upper astral plane is oftentimes where, when we're dreaming, that's where we're going to connect with our team and spirit. And then we have the 5D, the fifth dimension or fifth density. And this is what I call the higher heavens. And from the fifth dimension on, this is where you have unity consciousness, oneness, and divine love. There is no contrast or duality, okay? It's a lot of love and light. And this is where the archangels, ascended masters, angels, higher beings of light, and source energy, exist. And it's more pure. There's no ego, no separation. Truly, just peace, love, and light. And so let's talk about who's on your team. So let's break this down a little more. Your team spirit includes all of these beings that I briefly mentioned. So we have the archangels. These are the big guns. Archangel Michael, he is the ultimate protector, okay? So the archangels are what my guides have referred to as like God's MVPs, most valuable players. They are so powerful and they have the ability to be with everyone simultaneously. There's, in my book, Awaken the Spirit Within, I list 12 of the most, common archangels. And if you're really interested in doing a deep dive, I suggest you check out that book for more information on how to invoke them, how to work with them, the qualities that they bring for you. We have another example would be Archangel Jophiel. He helps lift you out of depression and bring you into beauty and joy. Or Archangel Raphael, who's the healing angel. If you're dealing with any mental, emotional, or physical ailments, you call in Archangel Raphael. And the list goes on. But that's an idea of the archangels. And then you have your guardian angels. And, everyone has at least one. Some of us have two. And these are the higher protector angels that are with you from birth until death. And I like to think of them like your spiritual bodyguards. They never leave your side. They're quietly in the background. They only step in when either A, you invoke them, you pray, you ask, or B, in life-threatening situations, if you're in harm's way. And they need to step in because there's a need for divine, protection and guidance. The guardian angels essentially know your life or soul contract, okay? So they're here to keep you on your path, showing up, and fully engaged in whatever your soul contract entails. And then you have your spirit guides. So these are souls who've evolved and are trained to guide you. Okay. And they often change out depending on what you're learning at any given moment. And so, some of your life assignments or lessons are, only there for a few months at a time. For some of us, we have bigger lessons that are there for years and years at a time. And so think of it like, spirit guides are like teachers. And, once we've completed that grade level, we change out our teachers. And then once you hit, middle school and high school and college, you have multiple teachers with multiple subject matters. Okay, so the same would be the case if you have multiple life assignments or lessons, you would have multiple spirit guides. And they usually are assigned to you because they have empathy. They have lived an incarnated life and oftentimes learning and dealing with some of the same lessons or challenges that you are dealing with. So they can more efficiently and properly guide you because they've actually walked the walk. Okay, but they are now in a more enlightened space and they have a broader non-physical perspective. But again, spirit guides have been responsibly trained by higher guides to assist you. Because one thing they have to know is, they cannot interfere with your free will. And they also can't like spill the beans and tell you everything. Like they have to, like almost like a trained therapist who asks all the right questions to lead you to your own answers or conclusion. They're there to gently nudge you and guide you and support you through your process, but not do it for you. Okay. So, and those spirit guides can include departed loved ones. My grandmother, Babe, I was going through a depression, and this was back when my gift revealed itself to me when I was walking down a dark road, very similar to what my grandmother, who actually died by suicide, had gone through. And so one day I'm channeling, journaling at a bookstore, start channeling my departed grandmother, Babe, who says she's been trained as a spirit guide to help me, rather than incarnating to heal, correct, and balance her lessons. She decided to do it from the other side by taking me under her wing and giving me this love and support and guidance and tools that she wished she would have had, but didn't. And so that was basically a karmic agreement that she and I obviously had. And then once her work was complete and I was healed and whole and off on my path doing my thing, she left. I rarely, if ever, hear from her anymore. She's evolved into the higher heavens. And so that's kind of how a spirit guide works. They're with you for the amount of time you need to learn the lesson and to get through that chapter. And then they evolve, move forward, and a lot of times start working with somebody else, or they're off in the higher heavens doing their own soul evolution work. And then new guides come in. And then you have ascended masters, and ascended masters, these are the spiritual heavyweights, who once lived as humans. We all are very familiar with many of them, such as, Jesus, Moses, Buddha, Mother Mary, Tara, Green Tara, the list goes on and on. But they get the human experience because they lived it. And so they are, they're accessible to us. And if an ascended master or a few really resonate with you, it's likely because, you're a vibrational match in that you're learning similar lessons, or they embody qualities that really, resonate with you and your soul purpose. And so I would encourage you to learn about them, invoke them and through prayer, invite them in, start, allowing them to assist you. And then you have your departed loved ones. They may not always guide us, but they're always acting as our cheerleaders, okay? Rooting us on from the other side. And when I do readings, obviously, this is primarily who shows up, first and foremost, because they come forward to remind you that their love for you is eternal. Their physical vessel, their body died, but their soul doesn't die. Energy doesn't die. So their spirit is eternally present with you. And like I said earlier, some do become trained to become guides of yours or part, of some of our family members or friends. But at the very least, they are available to you to love you, cheer you on, and support you. And then you have your spirit animals, whether they are your once pets, favorite beloved pets that were incarnated earth angels, and then when they cross over, they finish their chapter, they are still showing up in your energy field because they are eternally a part of your support system or your team. And then we also have your ground crew. And the ground crew are your living soulmates. These are your family and friends who walk the path with you and have likely done it in many, many incarnations, if not all. And so every member of your team plays a different role. And it's like having multiple teachers for different subject matters, as I shared earlier. And there's no one size fits all. Everyone has a different makeup. And that is fluid. That changes. There may be periods of your life where you only have a handful of guides and other periods where you have dozens and dozens. It just depends on where you're at and what type of divine intervention and support you need based on the soul contract that you have signed up for. Want to witness the magic of spirit in real time? In my Rebecca Rosen live online events, I connect with spirit to deliver messages of healing, hope, and love. These large group virtual events offer a front row seat to the power of divine connection, no matter where you are in the world. Whether you receive a personal message or resonate with another's, you'll leave feeling supported, uplifted, and more connected to your loved ones on the other side. Join me for the next event on September 25th by reserving your spot at RebeccaRosen.com. And so, how to connect with your team spirit? You know, this is where it gets practical, okay? So, the first part of this is we have to raise our vibration. Everything is about energy and frequency. And your spirit team vibrates so high because they're non-physical. They're not matter. Matter is heavier and denser. And so their light is, is high vibrational energy. So we, if we want to connect to them, have to do our part to raise our vibration. And then they essentially lower theirs. And that's where we meet in the middle. And we can do that through the process of prayer and meditation. That's like the most obvious and probably easiest way. Breath work is another amazing way. And just being out in nature is another very easy, available thing for most of us. And sometimes, just simply listening to high vibrational frequency music can help you raise your vibration. Or maybe it's reading material that inspires you and elevates you. It may be doing artistic things, right brain things, whether it's art, writing, painting, sculpting. That right brain is the same doorway, that creativity and imagination, it's the same doorway as intuition. And so right brain activities tend to help raise our vibration and open the doorway to connection. And so really, for some people, it could simply be being alone raises their vibration. If you're an introvert, that's going to be an obvious and necessary thing to have alone time to recalibrate and raise your vibe. And then, for extroverts, it would be being around people that light you up, that make you laugh, that bring you joy and expand your heart. That would raise your vibe. And so you see why I'm saying there is not a one size fits all. You have to figure out and ask yourself, what energizes me? What lights me up? What brings me joy? That's what raises your vibe. Okay? And then you do more of that. And so, let's go back to meditation. So there's a lot of ways to meditate. For some people, it's sitting and simply just breathing in silence. For other people, it's moving meditation, walking, hiking, running, anything that kind of gets you out of your head, puts you in like kind of a moving, like a zone. It's kind of like how you hear of runner's high. And so, for some people, they need guided meditations, or some people, they need to be trained in like transcendental meditation, TM, or with a mantra. There's so many types of meditation. So again, you have to figure out what works for you. And it may not be the same on any given day. I know for me, there's times where I've had too much coffee or my head is just going and I cannot sit still. So I go for a walk. And I typically, if I listen to music, it's usually without words. It's, sound healing music or crystal bowls or solfeggio frequencies. And sometimes I go in silence. And so that tends to ground me and connect me and clear the mind chatter and help me get present. And so the whole goal with meditation is truly to get present and make space. Okay? There's always going to be mind thoughts. There's always going to be the chatter that comes in. And it's really not resisting it. It's just allowing it, just acknowledging it, and then allowing it to pass. It's like I once heard, it's like the clouds. You just kind of focus on it and it passes and it just keeps moving. and you don't give it a whole lot of energy, because whatever we resist persists. So if we're getting frustrated because the to-do list won't stop, or you're recalling the conversation you had an hour ago, or whatever it is, just breathe through it. Get curious, look at it, but don't get frustrated. It's part of it. For me, even when I do readings, I still have interference come in with ego thoughts, mind thoughts. And I've learned to separate it out from intuition downloads or spirit communicating. And it's sometimes all coming at the same time. And I just have to sift and sort, but not get hung up on or frustrated about the thoughts. Okay? And so it's a practice. It's, ideally it's a daily practice if you are committed. And so when you're meditating, even if you don't feel anything is happening in the meditation, there's still a shift happening, I promise you. So maybe afterwards, when you come out of the meditation, you might notice synchronicities or signs or aha moments where things just come to you, or clarity, or just an overall sense of peace. Okay? That's how spirit works. So don't get like really hung up and fixated on there has to be like you're attached to an outcome. It's really, the whole idea is to detach and to just be still and allow whatever needs to happen. And then when you're done with your meditation, you go about your day, you've elevated your energy, you've raised your vibration, and that really is where the magic begins. Okay, that's how spirit works. It's very subtle but powerful. And you'll start to see flow. That's where, again, the synchronicity, signs, miracles start effortlessly and easily and consistently happen. And so what I think is really important is to remind you that to connect with your team spirit, you have to ask. The law of free will says, spirit cannot intervene unless it's life-threatening, and unless we invite them in and give them permission. So every day, just start your day by, setting an intention followed by an invitation, which is simply a heartfelt prayer or an internal ask. Be with me now. Show me next steps. Thank you for a day of heaven on earth. Thank you for magic, miracles, grace, ease, joy, and flow today. It can be very simple, short commands, as long as it is intentional, heartfelt, and directive. Okay? And you don't have to worry about saying the perfect words. Okay? Your emotion is your language. Spirit responds to heartfelt emotion. Your sincerity is your signal that, activates your team spirit. But also be specific, okay? Just like I always say, you wouldn't call an electrician for a plumbing issue. Okay, so don't be afraid to go straight to the guide that fits the task if you know what that is. Sometimes you don't know, and that's okay. So you'll just say, to cover my bases, I call my entire team spirit. But if you know that you're struggling with a tremendous amount of worry, anxiety, and fear, you go to Archangel Michael, who he helps to give you courage and strength and protection, and he'll naturally eliminate some of those feelings of fear. And so that leads me to now, your team spirit has a sign language, okay? Your team speaks in signs, and what I like to call breadcrumbs from beyond. And they show up as either mental phenomena or physical phenomena. And so the mental phenomena, that's going to be things like intuitive hits or inspired thoughts, aha moments, dreams, meditations, downloads that you get, that just like you start hearing things in your mind's voice, even ringing in the ears, or a song that gets stuck in your head. This happens to me all the time. I'll wake up with a song in my head, and I hadn't heard the song a day or two before. And then I'll go do a reading, and that song comes up as a very important, significant sign or message to the person I'm working with. So spirit can inspire thoughts and feelings into our minds and bodies. And that is how these intuitive hits or downloads are happening. And then you have physical phenomena. So these are going to be all the signs that, if you follow me, I have talked extensively about, like angel numbers, 111, 222, 333, 444, 1111, birthdays, death dates, okay, lucky numbers. And then, things like license plates. That's a big one for me, whether it's numbers on plates or vanity tags with messages. Sometimes it's electrical things like lights flickering or messing with your electronics. Sometimes it's coins. Spirits love to use coins when you're struggling with trust, because they say in God we trust. So pennies from heaven. It can be feathers, birds and butterflies and things that fly, ladybugs. I had a ladybug in my car this morning flying around, and yesterday one landed on me. And I know I'm going into readings tomorrow. I guarantee you it's going to be for somebody in one of my groups. And so at the time, things may not always connect. But, one of the things I love so much about readings is I'll ask Spirit to give you clear evidence, validation. So things nobody could know. And usually these are the types of things, signs you've been experiencing, wondering, is this wishful thinking or is this really them? But to help give you some, further validation, you're not making this up. This is real. And Spirit will find multiple ways. It doesn't have to be one sign. It can be many signs. I know my dad has like 10 or 11 different types of signs he gives me. So you can ask Spirit, what are your signs? And then start paying attention to the recurring patterns or things that show up. Or you can designate it and say, hey, I'd love license plates to be my sign. Talk to me this way. And then start paying attention. It can work both ways. But regardless, the list goes on and on. My book, Spirited, has a list of tons of signs. I go into depth on mental and physical phenomena. So if you're interested, check out Spirited. And so Spirit will use whatever they think will get your attention and what they think is meaningful for you, whether they know it reminds them of you or the sign reminds you of them. And so you'll find that your spirit team creates, a language that's unique for you. But your job is to slow down, tune in, and pay attention. Notice. You don't have to go into effort. I always say don't. You don't want to go make it fit, right? You just want to stay open. And I promise you, if you do that, the signs will magnetize to you. And then it's fun. And the more you appreciate the signs, like I still, 25 years into this, I get excited like a little kid, like when I have really amazing miracles happen. But the more you stay genuinely grateful for the signs, the more signs that will come. Because it's like anything. If you give somebody a gift and they're dismissive and not grateful, you don't want to give them more. But the people who are so deeply, authentically appreciative and it's meaningful and they're able to communicate that to you with deep love and appreciation, you want to just give more to. Well, that goes the same with your team and spirit. I promise you. And so do not forget to appreciate them and acknowledge them. As little or big of a miracle or sign that it is, thank them. And I promise you, you'll get more. And so to wrap this all up, you are never alone, ever. Your team is with you right now, okay? You don't need me. You don't need anyone external. I always say nobody is closer to your team spirit than you are. You have a very close, solid connection to them. But you have to, suspend your doubt long enough, okay, to make room for the miracle, to open and expand your mind and your consciousness to make that connection. And you have to ask, you have to invite it in, and then you have to be present. You have to pay attention, okay? They really do need your permission to fully help. So again, invite them in, ask, and then you have to trust. Trust is probably the biggest thing I could leave you with. When you trust, even when you have faith and trust, even when you have no reason to, the universe will give you a reason. And then you have that miracle. You have that experience that deepens your faith and trust. Okay? And so if you just show up each day saying, I'm going to set the intention to be present, to be still, and to listen, that's when divine guidance will reveal itself organically, easily, and consistently. And that's, how Source will take care of you. Okay, Spirit has your back. Always has, always will. It's up to us if we choose to use it, to access it. And why wouldn't we? The biggest thing I hear from the other side once spirits have passed on is they wish they would have believed. They wish they would have known. They wish they would have had the awareness so they would have had access to this powerful support and guidance and care. And we all have it. And so my job is to be the messenger and to tell you, don't wait until it's too late. Just suspend your doubt and disbelief long enough to invite it in, to say, show me the miracle. And I promise you, you'll get the evidence. And when you do, it's addictive. You start to rely on it, which we are supposed to do. That's why it's there. It's like before we're born, we come in and we say, cover me. And they say, I've got you. Okay. But we have to remember that and then activate it. And so it's really powerful to know that you're always supported by something bigger than yourself. You are not alone. And so I leave you with this, my friends. I encourage you between now and the next episode to start putting this to the test. Talk to, work with your team spirit. Thank them for all the loving ways in which they make themselves available to you to make your life easier and to help you create and navigate your heaven on earth. As always, until we meet again, wishing you brightest blessings and all love. Thank you for listening to Small Medium at Large. If this episode inspired you, please follow the show and leave a review. It truly helps us reach more people who need these messages. For more resources and upcoming events, visit RebeccaRosen.com and connect with me on Instagram and Facebook at Medium Rebecca Rosen.